So why don't you tell me, first of all, just a little bit about yourself, your background, why do you care about any of this?
Okay. I got started in bicycling back in the late 70s when I was a student at New College, and ended up doing a thesis on bicycle policy of Sarasota. And that thesis ended up being bought by the city of Portland and London and Amsterdam because it was the first in the world of cost-benefit analysis of bicycle policies. From there, I founded the Spokespeople, which was the group that changed the bicycle policies of the city of Sarasota, City of Bradenton, Manatee County, and Sarasota County to make them bicycle friendly. This is all in the late 80s. And then I became Florida's first bicycle pedestrian lobbyist. And I worked in the late 80s and enacted several laws for bicycle pedestrian safety and other things, but not just safety, but bicycle and pedestrian transportation in general. Thereafter, I went off to grad school, and I got out of the bicycle field, but I came back in 2005, whereupon I founded Bicycle Pedestrian Advocates for the city of Sarasota. I was also a co-founder of ART, the Alliance for Responsible Transportation. And then in 2011, I founded Florida Walks and Bikes. I've actually founded all three of Florida's statewide bicycle advocacy organizations, including the Florida Bicycle Association, the Spokespeople, and Florida Walks and Bikes. Now, my particular concern with this is, as a representative for bicyclists and pedestrian safety, this project will have an actual negative effect on that, and it's basically a waste of money.
So tell me why you think that. What we're looking at here as we're going through is the scene of the road narrowing. And so as a proposed solution to this project, if we look at, I think we even have cutaways here of what the existing profile of the road is.
Okay. Well,
and so there is an existing bike lane currently. Both plans, I think, talk about getting rid of it. One of them talks about kind of cutting it down and maintaining the two-lane road profile. And I think the other one, so this one here is the second proposal. The first proposal takes it into two-lane road, gets rid of the bike lane, the center median, and then the other proposal gets rid of altogether, and it goes down into a one-lane road in each direction. So
let's go back to the existing, right, Mark, if you can?
Okay, yep. Let's find that. I think that's this one here.
Okay, that's good. Now, the first thing to notice about this, and this is a larger point. I was here in Sarasota in 1987 when they basically built this configuration. Back at that time, it was 3rd Street, and it was just a tiny little local road. The reason they did this was because the interstate was coming through, US 41 would no longer be the main drag, and they wanted a highway to link the interstate with the barrier islands and with downtown. And even the planners on this project admit this has worked well. This is working well. We need this highway. It is the goose that has laid the golden egg. It's vital for the people on the barrier islands. It's vital for downtown. It's vital for even east of town to connect to downtown. What's happening here, and this is a larger thing, is you have a new theory come in, and people go, oh, we need to make every road a local street. We want to take this road and make it a local street. Question. Where will that traffic go? This is the reason that the town of Longboat Key opposes it, Lido Key Residents Association opposes it, Bird Key Homeowners Association oppose it, the Herald Tribune and the Observer oppose it because the traffic up there is estimated. Now I say estimated because the city actually doesn't know what the traffic is on this road. On my way over here, there's a traffic jam out there right now on Fruitville Road.
Yeah.
And I got caught in it. And this is Friday afternoon in early February. So we're in season, yes, but as everyone knows, traffic is often at a standstill there.
Yeah.
The purpose of this project, and the stated purpose of this project, is to slow it down, change the character of the street, turn it, and some of the proponents of it say, let's make it 3rd Street. But what this is government flip-flopping. How many millions have been spent already to make this the highway that carries all this traffic? The Herald Tribune estimates 28,000 cars per day during peak season and maybe about 14 to 15,000 during non-peak. Where are those cars going to go if we choke off the traffic here? Now, the city goes, actually, and this is the crazy part, some of the planners in the city go, oh, those cars will flow into the grid. They'll go on to 2nd, 4th Street, 5th Street, 6th Street. Wait a second. Has anybody been watching what's going on in the city? The city's #1 problem is traffic. And one of the big issues in the city is cut-through traffic. That's what. And where are these cars going to go down Main Street? Going to go down First Street, Second Street, Fourth Street? There's no answer to that. They have no answer. All they're thinking of is ideology over common sense. They want to.
Well, one of the things they propose, or one of the things they talked about, one of the things that Dan talked about was this chart, and we kind of broke into this chart. And here he shows, if the existing, traffic patterns here, along with if we do nothing, is this option. If we do option 1, here's an option. If we do option 2, and somehow they show that by narrowing, you actually speed up the traffic during peak hours here. If you compare this 6:15 to 6 minutes and 58 seconds, they actually say it's faster with option 2. How would you defend against these times? Like, first of all, I don't know where they got these numbers from. But second of all, like, it doesn't seem to make sense to me if you narrow the path for cars that it would actually increase the flow of traffic.
And Reimar, it doesn't make sense. You put your finger on it. You wonder where the numbers came from. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay. From 1995 to 2015, Sarasota County has grown in population, roughly 1.45% per year. Now, the Fruitville Road planners say, their actual estimates for that is that even with all this population going on, there will be 0% traffic growth on Fruitville Road.
Who says that?
The planners, that is Sam Schwartz Engineering.
So they say the population's going to increase, but the traffic won't.
That's what they're saying. 0%. That's their assumption. 0% population growth on Fruitville Road. Do you believe that?
But that's not the same even traffic studies they use, like when they do a development study or when they do a traffic analysis for a new residence. Don't they talk about like the impact of traffic on the road, and aren't there new developments going in there? So don't those two positions kind of immediately counter?
Well, they contradict each other, and here's one reason. Okay, here's their reasoning for 0% traffic growth is they go, oh, the intersections at 301 and 41 are so bad that this road can't have any more traffic. I don't believe that. I'm sorry, and neither does anybody I know. But even more, you're talking about these traffic studies. When Sam Schwartz did this estimate, they only counted traffic from 7 of the 33 developments at that time in the downtown area west of the US 301. They didn't count the traffic impact from 13 developments north of Fruitville, and they did not count from 9 current developments at the time south of Fruitville. But even worse, when counting this traffic, they decided that and this is the real big one. They said, we're not going to count any traffic from any developments in the future. There were 33 going on at that time. They chose to count 7, but they assumed that that whatever happened in the future after 2018, there'd be no traffic increase. So there's and there's a really obvious flaw here. They're saying the only traffic to worry about is east-west. That's the only traffic to worry about. What about all these developments north and south of Fruitville? That's not going to have an impact on Fruitville Road? No. Tell me about it.
So you said something during the presentation. You asked something about like some of the groups opposing this versus some of the groups that were in favor. And that's one of the questions I asked Dan. I said, it seems to me like if you lived in this neighborhood, right, like you might be interested in turning the highway in your front street into a residential road. But if you work and commute here and you're in and out and you're a business owner, maybe you don't have that. And it seems like the only people they've been talking to are the small civic communities that kind of live around the place,
Sure.
And so it seems like they've been a little quiet about getting public approval on any of this for the last year. Do you see any problems with that? Do you have any issues with how they're kind of going about this? Do you think they're not being genuine and are they not doing this with good faith, or what do you think here?
Well, I don't want to impugn anybody's honesty, but you're showing this this animation on the screen. It's important to realize this is an animation. This is not reality. This was designed by Chris Hoyt Architects, and they were paid by the city to make the project look good. Okay, so now here's one thing to and where I'm not going to impugn anybody's honesty, because I'm actually going to quote the city themselves. There are 2 options for Fruitville Road. There's option 1, there's option 2.
There's option 3, not doing anything.
Okay, option 3, which I support, but of the 2 build options, okay. Now, option one is basically just get rid of the bike lanes and take the space and put it on the sidewalks. That's roughly what it is. There's a foot or two here or there, and so they're going to take maybe 8 feet out of the roadway. Okay, and then their state purpose is to make it easier for pedestrians. Here is what, and you can show this on the screen if you want, but this is from this is slide number 30 from the city's PowerPoint. Here's what they say about alternative one, and I'm going to quote: "It does not improve north-south pedestrian crossings." They're spending $10 million to improve north-south pedestrian crossings. But this, if you do option one, they admit in their own PowerPoint that it does not improve north-south pedestrian crossings. Then underneath it they go, typically no crash reduction. So they're admitting it won't have any impact on safety either. So that's option one.
So it's essentially just a cosmetic or superficial approach. It's not a...
Go back to that slide showing the cross-section.
Animation or the cross-section?
The cross-section, okay.
I think this is option one here. So this would be...
No. This is how it is. This is what we want, right here?
This is the one without the bike lanes, though.
Okay, all right.
So this is the one without the bike lanes.
Okay, go to the one with the bike lanes.
Okay, the one with the bike lanes, the current setup,
yeah,
I believe is this one here.
Okay. So they're going to take 4 feet out of the median.
Do this if you want. You can grab this.
Okay.
And you can telestrate on here. You can draw on this thing.
Well, I don't know if I can master this difficult technology, but they're going to take 4 feet out of the median. This will become a 6 foot.
Yeah, draw on the screen.
6 feet. Well, it's not going to work. But the basic idea with option one is they're going to take the bike lane away, and they're going to add that 4 feet to the sidewalk. That's basically what they're going to do. So the sidewalks will become 8 to 10 feet. They're going to take another 4 feet out of the median, so you're going to take 4 feet and split it both ways, so you end up 10-foot sidewalks. So what?
Open these up, and they're going to trim them down, right?
Right.
Which I think we can probably show. I think because we have the option 2 is the 2 slides down here. Let's take just a peek at that, because that's essentially what we're talking about here, right? We're getting a 10-inch. We're getting the 10-foot sidewalk, 10-foot sidewalk here. And that space has been added either here, and actually this has been narrowed quite a bit too.
Well,
so
from 10 to 6.
Right.
But so what they're doing is they're basically taking 12 feet out of your total crossing of that road. Is that taking 12 feet out of a crossing right now of, let's see now, if you go back to the original, out of roughly like 50, 56, 58 feet, so I'm going 58 to 46, is that going to make the pedestrian a lot safer? No. This makes a lot of sense. So now we go to their. They say, well, wait a second. We favor option 2. Okay. Well, option 2 it starts at somewhere around Lemon Avenue, just before Lemon Avenue, and it 2 lanes, Fruitville Road. Okay. It takes it down from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and then you have these 1-lane roundabouts at Lemon, Central, and Coconut until you get to 41. But again, using the city's own words against them, that's only 44% of it. 56% of it from US 301 to Central Avenue would still be alternative 1. So they admit right up front that even of option 2, over half of it doesn't do anything for the pedestrian. So now we get into, well, gee, maybe option 2 is so good. They say that if we take a 4-lane road and make a 2-lane road out of it with single-lane roundabouts, that traffic moves just as well as a 4-lane road. With turn lanes? Okay. Does that sound right to you? It shouldn't sound right to you, because their model for this is what happened in 1992, La Jolla, California, 26 years ago. If this was true, if it was true that you could take a 4-lane road and make it move just as efficiently with 2 lanes and single-lane roundabouts, every single state department of transportation in the country would be doing this. Why? It would save them hundreds of millions of dollars in right-of-way cost and construction cost. But they're not. Florida isn't. Not a single state in the nation is doing this, not as a matter of policy. They cite some other town in New York. 2 examples over the last 30 years. As a scientist, and just as someone who respects the science of transportation, you don't work off of just one example from California, and it may
especially the one that fits your desire, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, just basic statistics. You need a number of examples, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, people have experimented with this, and they like to say, oh, you can move just as much traffic with 2 lanes as you can with 4. Is that true? Well, great. So let's go to Ringling Bridge. Let's take a lane off of each side. We should be able to move as much traffic, right? Do you believe that? I don't believe that. Or we could take some lanes out of US 41 downtown. which is what some of these new urbanists wanted to do. They wanted to, this again, all this comes from this new urbanist philosophy, which basically is they hate cars and they hate the suburbs. They're not going to say it like that. They go, oh, we're anti-sprawl, and oh, we're pro-walking. What it really is they hate cars and they hate suburbs, and they want to turn US 41 into a 2-lane road, along the bayfront. And they wanted to limit the traffic to 28 miles per hour.
Is this a blend of, because this is also, in my mind, the street view, the perspective of what I'm seeing, what I'm gathering from the community is this idea that as we see the Quay property develop, as we see the Bay develop, this is going to become a grand entrance for them. This becomes a private, beautiful entrance right into your front. Right? And so now you calm down the roads here, you create this gorgeous little roundabout that basically feeds you right into this Quay property. And so as the average people looking at this project, I think they tend to see more opulence and elitism as opposed to anything having to do with the traffic stuff. And I don't think anybody's even talking about those concerns, right? This idea that a lot of this is happening because there's lots of money in this town and that money can pull big strings, and those big strings end up leading to projects that make downtown, which should be an urban core, look a lot more like a residential neighborhood, which I'm not sure is necessarily always a bad thing, but it also creates an environment where you're turning the downtown into a suburb, right? So
well, they want to turn the downtown not into a suburb. They want to get away from suburb. They want to turn into narrow little streets, where cars can't move very well. See, their theory of walkability behind this is, okay, it is very different from mine. My theory of walkability and transportation is we can make transportation work for everybody. This road, if you want to go back to that slide again of how it is.
The current cross-section?
The current cross-section. This road, as it is now, and I will mention to you how that works. This road is by standards. It's got a bike lane on it. It's an arterial, and it's got a bike lane. And by standards, you have to have a bike lane on arterials. And that makes a lot of sense because for safety, for bicycle transportation. It also makes sense for the pedestrian. One of the great things about a bike lane, and this is the reason that over the 5-year period that they studied, they have to randomly pick a 5-year period. They picked from October 10 to October 2015. They had only 3 bicycle crashes over a 5-year period. And this is on a big road, and a lot of the people on these bicycles are some of this homeless population. At the same time, over that 5 years, they had 8 pedestrian crashes. And again, we have a homeless population crossing this road every day. Now, one huge reason for this is the bike lane itself provides when the pedestrian steps out into the road, they have a safe zone of 4 feet. If a pedestrian steps impulsively in the road, the car has 4 feet of travel for the pedestrian to see them. The pedestrian has 4 more feet to recover. And so this is a very safe road for pedestrians and bicyclists. The city people, they go, oh, this is dangerous. But their own figures show differently. Their own figures show that you're having an average of 0.6 bicycle fatalities per year with no fatalities and no pedestrian fatalities in the 5-year period.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. They have numbers here as it relates to the traffic statistics. And when I asked for some detail, because to me, to show, and it was like a couple hundred accidents over the last 5 years or something like that.
Right.
But there was no metric to weigh that against another similar sized street of that type. Right. And so I don't know if that's a lot. Is that a little? Is 300 accidents too much? Is 500 accidents too much? I don't know. It doesn't seem like the data they're giving is contextually viable to paint the picture for what they're trying to paint.
Well, there's a reason they're not talking about why that's dangerous, because it would show that it's a safe street. When you have a mile of urban arterial with 28,000 cars per day on it in peak season, and you only have
236 accidents over a 5-year span with 1 death and only 50 or 60 of them over a 5-year period were actual physical. There's a slide in here, and I'll overlay it if I can't find it, but there's a slide that shows that specifically the traffic, the number of accidents, and just from a timing. I don't know where I should have numbered these, but it's tough to they all look identical. The slides here in these little thumbnail view. Okay, that's not too important. So just in the grand scheme of things, just in wrapping up here, for the sake of time, what's the biggest concern here from your standpoint? What's the biggest oversight? What's the biggest pain point for the average person?
Okay, here's the thing. Generally, the idea of calming streets is a good idea. You can't calm every street. We're not going to calm I-75. We don't want to calm, Beneva Road. We don't want to calm certain streets where we have to move a lot of traffic. They're trying to punish the motorist on this. It's a flawed theory. Also, and I didn't mention this earlier, but in terms of pedestrians crossing the street, how tough is it to cross this Fruitville Road right now? I did it in high season back in year 2016, February 27th, 2016. It was a beautiful day. It was a Saturday. And I went on the 7 intersections in between US 301 and US 41, Lynx, Osprey, Goodrich, Orange, Lemon, Central, and Coconut. I found that the average time it took for me to go to the intersection, and it was all random, hit the button, was 23 seconds for the light to change. And then I crossed the street. This is not a big deal to cross.
Yeah.
They're acting like this is some sort of huge barrier. Now, the other thing they said was, well, we need to spend this $10 million, and this is in the original proposal. We need to spend this $10 million to spur development on Fruitville Road. Guess what? Development's already happened.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to spend $10 million to spur development here. Now, what should be happening, I don't want to be totally negative, what should have happened, and what has actually happened with this building, finally the city's beginning to see the light. The reason we have those narrow sidewalks out there is because the city pursued this crazy policy of zero setbacks. They allowed these businesses to build right up to the lot line and have these narrow sidewalks. But here in this building, and this building is called the Bold, right? Mm-hmm. They made them do a setback. Now we've got a wider sidewalk there.
Right.
And there's room for even a wider sidewalk they want. I think you've got 6 feet out there. You could have a 10-foot sidewalk out there. All the city has to do is say, hey, put a setback on Fruitville Road, and you could have the wide sidewalks. But they didn't. It's the city's fault that we have those narrow sidewalks there. So my larger perspective on this is $10 million being spent. The original reason is being spent is because they had the money in a
But they're not going to get this project done for $10 million.
That's what they say. Well,
That's a pie in the sky. You can't lay a mile of road for that hardly anymore, especially in an urban core like this.
Well, that estimate was from a few years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Now, by the way, here's something else.
That's what I asked too: is where do they pay? How do they pay for this? And there was no good answer on that.
Well, and now speaking of how do you pay, I'm glad you brought that up, because here's something that everybody out there in the world needs to know. The city has actually defunded. It had $4.2 million in the fund for Fruitville Road. They took roughly $3.2 million out. So the city is already
the city's struggling for money everywhere.
Sure.
They've got pension problems. They've got all sorts of lawsuits pending. They've got all sorts of complications happening inside of there from a fiscal standpoint. That the idea that, and then you've got the Bay project that they're trying to figure out how they're going to fund that. All of these things. I just wonder where the city's going to keep getting the money for all these projects.
That's a good question. The thing is, this is
without
not
just increasing.
They rebuilt this road. They spent $1 million to rebuild this road. I think it was year 2014 or 2013. They spent $1 million to make it the good road it is now, up to standard. And now they want to come back and say, oh, now we want to forget all of this money we spent and all this previous investment of millions of dollars and all the right-of-way they bought. Now we're going to flip-flop. We're going to go back from having this highway that serves our needs, and we're going to make it a local street again.
Yeah.
There are people who make it a third street. It's crazy. Now here's something else everybody else needs to know. I was talking about where traffic is going to go. The city goes, oh, well, then this is one thing they're not telling you. 2nd and 4th Street, we're going to route the bicyclists onto there. When they, bicyclists don't need to worry. Number one, that doesn't work. That was tried in the 1970s. Bicyclists have to go everywhere everybody else has got to go. They need the major streets. They want to go to the Bold.
Right.
They want to go to where the shopping centers are. So they need those major streets. But it also didn't work, and so bicyclists ignored those routes and stayed on the streets. So the city's rehashing something.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine as somebody who rides my bike downtown on a fairly regular basis. I couldn't imagine that they put together something like what they're talking about here, which is essentially this like overflow lane or whatever it is, and not pretend like I'm going to ride my bike on that.
Yeah,
right. Like I'm going to get out on Fruitville and be able to ride my bike, across, because they're talking about some of this median stuff. So you tell me I'm not supposed to like ride my bike in here, right? I'm not supposed to somehow take my bike on this little narrow path or something like that.
It's a lovely little vision.
Get out of here.
As lovely as it is unrealistic. The
where's the view? There's actual profile of that plan.
Well,
right here, so like this pullover lane.
Right.
It's like this is supposed to be a pullover lane for emergency personnel here.
Sure.
This little guy, But you don't think I'm like, that seems like prime bike territory for me.
Well, they want you to go over into 2nd and 4th. 2nd doesn't run all.
Well, who's going to do that?
2nd doesn't even run to 301.
Yeah.
You know, so and here's the other thing that everybody else from that neighborhood needs to know.
And what if you just don't know? Like, what if you just...
They say, oh, we're going to build a bike boulevard on 2nd and 4th. Okay, now, everybody needs to take a good look at that bike boulevard because parts of it are to severely hamstring motor vehicle traffic. For instance, if you're on Coconut, you would not be able to turn to go east on 4th Street. Several places on 4th and 2nd, they blocked off car traffic there.
Yeah, that's what I asked Dan too. Is if they did that, if they turned 2nd and 4th into bike corridors, does that mean they're going to stop the flow of traffic in any particular way? And he didn't seem like that was the plan. But.
Well, when the consultants brought it up, when Dan Lobeck and I spoke to looked at over with the consultants, the idea is traffic on that street. The bicycle would be superior. Cars would have to follow bicycles. There wouldn't be room for cars and bikes. All the cars would have to follow the bikes, and street after street would be modified to impair car traffic and to make it only for bicyclists.
All right.
And see, I'm against it. I think that transportation should work for everybody. I want cars to move well. I want pedestrians to move well. I want bicycles to move well. I'm not out here to pick winners and losers. I think a rising tide lifts all boats. These people are trying to pick winners and losers.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. A whole nother side of the perspective on this Fruitville Streetscape Project. It's up to you guys to figure out what's going on. We'll have the links to the city, to the slides, to more of this video. You know, we've got an hour and a half now between these interviews of video relating to this content. And so we will be... Oh, I went to the wrong side there. So we will be continuing to try to follow this story and keep you up to date on what's going on. And I think that's it. With that, you've got a pretty good perspective of what's going on. And we'll leave it up to you guys to decide whether or not you think this is a good idea. Should we narrow Fruitville? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Share your thoughts with the city commissioners. They will be making a decision on this, I think, sometime in April. So catch you guys later.